I blamed like I take on responsibility when I was going through this, not only for myself, but everybody around me. If somebody treated me poorly, it must have been my fault, right? If somebody cut me off in traffic, I must be driving incorrectly. Like, it's got to be me. It's my fault. And we're taught that on a level of spirituality as well. Like, well, you're responsible and it's your thoughts that create your reality. And okay, yes and no. Yes and no. There is that line where it's like, no, that isn't your responsibility. That is not in your lane. That is not your responsibility. And I think one of the hardest things for people to do is start recognizing that everything isn't their fault. That it is not your fault. And it's like, that isn't actually even your work to do. Your work to do is in your lane over here. And just to kind of put a line down the center and go, this is yours and this isn't yours. And you don't have to blame yourself for this anymore. You don't have to shame yourself for this anymore. You did nothing wrong, even though, as my dad was shooting my mother, my dad, with the gun in his hand, firing shots at her, what he was saying out of his mouth was, you made me do this. It is your fault. You made me do this. And even in that moment, of murder, he could not admit to himself he picked up the gun. He bought the gun. He picked it up. He put the bullets in it. He brought it to the house. It was still, he was the victim. And we keep ourselves victimized, and we punish ourselves and keep ourselves in suffering by being over responsible because we care. And what we're caring about things that are not ours to do. They're not our responsibility. They're not our path. I'm a little passionate about this, Deb.
Yes, and you should be. When you talk about intentions versus goals, can you share what the difference is in your mind?
Absolutely. So I think most of us, what we do is we come up with a goal. I want to get married in a year. I want to make $1 million. Again, whatever that goal is. And goals are nice and handy. But what I've discovered is that goals, when we get too attached to a goal, when the goal clearly changes, when the goal clearly isn't happening the way we want in our fantasy, the way we hoped it would, many times we, put ourselves in contortions to try to get that goal, and then we beat ourselves up for not reaching it. Instead, what I choose to believe and how I work and what I train my students and coaches to do is to focus on an intention, and then the goal falls underneath. So it's like, if my intention was to, find my soulmate, I want to find my soulmate. I want to be in love and find my soulmate. Okay, that's a goal, right? My intention would be, an intention for us is really focused on what I can do, what's under my power. My intention would be today I'm willing to practice being loving to myself and others. Because I know that if I'm practicing loving to myself and others, I'm actually going to create more love in my life. And if I create more love in my life, it is going to naturally bring in that relationship that's meant for me. But most of us focus on, I've got to get that. I've got to get the guy. I've got to get the girl. I've got to get the love. And they focus on the goal, and they forget the reason why. And they actually take themselves out of the picture. Like, when we talk about intention, I'm willing to practice, that's me practicing that. That's me doing that, right? I'm practicing loving myself. I'm practicing loving others. When it's a goal, it's almost like we're singularly focused on getting something from the outside world. And that, as most of us know by the age of 18, that doesn't necessarily always work out the way we'd hoped. And when we put all of our eggs in the basket of goals, we can be heartbroken and in deep suffering and pain for a good portion of our lives, and deeply disappointed in ourselves and have lots of regrets. And I choose to take my life back and focus on intentions, and then goals go under my intention. So my goal, let's say, again, my intention is I'm willing to practice being loving to myself and others. My goal might be, I am going to reach out to 3 people a week. I am going to go to 1 social event a week. I am going to, join a dating site. Like, I am going to do things as goals underneath that fuel my intention.
Right, putting it into action.
Yes, that's right. But they're for a purpose, not just as a random goal, right? But they're under an intention. They're here to help me become and be something and own something.
Right. I'm so with you. And intentions actually creates the magic from the universe, too. They usually things start dropping into place for you if you stay awake and attentive. All those good things happen. So I'm with you on that. Well, we're coming up on a break, and we've got so much more to talk about. But we're coming up on a break, and everyone, the book is Fearless Living, Live Without Excuses, Love Without Regret. And you can find the book and her others and all her workshops, and you can sign up for everything right on her site. It's RhondaBritten.com. Britten is B as in boy, R-I-T-T-E-N, RhondaBritten.com. And at the Omega, once again, it's May 10th through May 12th, and you can go right on eomega.org and sign up and get registered. And from what I hear, because I know our Leah Marie attended, that it is the most phenomenal change that you can happen in your life. Even if you're already conscious, you pull in so much more by coming to your workshop, Rhonda. Okay.
Thank you.
We will be back in a moment.
Experience different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seacock Family Chiropractic in Seacock, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Looking for a fun and relaxing getaway? Omega Rest and Rejuvenation Retreats are a great way to unwind and renew your spirit. You can stretch your body, quiet your mind, and do as much or as little as you choose. Join us in May and we'll waive the daily fees. Located in Rhinebeck, in New York's beautiful Hudson Valley, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 877-944-2002. That's 877-944-2002.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first-grade teacher Caitlin Roy DeBellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social-emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowdfunded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back. And again, if you'd like to call in, this is a live show. Bob is in the house, 833-220-1200. Again, 833-220-1200. We are with Emmy Award-winning reality TV personality and master coach, Rhonda Britten. Now, Rhonda, I know that with that wheel of fear, you mentioned in the book that every single person has is it a trigger? Is that the term that you use?
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes people think it's one thing, but it is not. It's something totally different.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. So speak to all of that.
Sure. So I created models that you mentioned, the Wheel of Fear and the Wheel of Freedom. And the reason I created these models was it explains how fear works, and it also explains how to move past fear. And so they're simple models that really describe the process of what's happening inside of us when we're activated by fear and the process that's activated when we're in freedom. And the good thing is that we can move from fear to freedom at choice, at will. And I show people how to do that. And so everybody's wheel of fear is unique to them. So, you were raised in one state, I was raised in another, you were raised by certain parents, I was raised by certain parents, went to schools, etc. And so we have created what I call fear responses. And fear responses could include procrastination, perfectionism, overwhelm, anxiety, people-pleasing, etc., etc. All the things that most people think are, quote-unquote, wrong with them, all the quote-unquote problems that people say they have, I would say most of those fall under fear responses. They're things they do in response to fear. We people please out of response to fear, right? We procrastinate in response to fear. And so the word you mentioned, the trigger, is that trigger is that core fear that activates those fear responses. And so I'm just going to use mine for a simple example. Like my core trigger, the thing that activates my quote-unquote wheel of fear, what I call the wheel of fear, is the fear of being seen or thought of as a loser. Now, have I ever been called a loser in my whole life? No, I have not. Even when I was being a loser, I wasn't being called a loser. Because, even when I
really?
was, right? Even when I was drinking and, trying to kill myself, I was still, getting, had a scholarship to college and got A's. And, so people, my fear, just like most people's fear, is very well hidden. It's invisible, it's insidious, and it's tricky. And so what happens is if I look at all my behaviors and all my choices in my life, I can actually trace them back to, I was afraid that people thought or saw me or would call me or, sense that I was a loser. And in that moment of critical, again, it's not a thought I'm having, it's unconscious, that I quickly then move into a fear response. I might people please, I might argue, I might get prideful, I might, boast, I might, again, do a series of things depending on the situation. And so most people think of fear as, well, I have a fear of rejection, I have a fear of failure, I have a fear of success, And all of those fears, again, are usually in the fear response category. Most people don't like rejection. I don't know very many people who like rejection. So it's not people's core fear, it's just what they do when they're afraid, right? So what I help people do is uncover, kind of like your astrology chart, right? Oh, I'm a Sagittarius, I'm a Capricorn, and that tells us something about us. And then, of course, there's a whole other, there's much more than an astrology. There's much more than, your astrology sign. But the Wheel of Fear, what it does, it kind of gives you a way to filter your behaviors and your choices. So you can go, oh, wait a minute. Am I in this moment afraid that I'm being seen as a loser? Oh, God, am I afraid that I'm going to be blah, blah, blah? And what am I doing right now? Oh, I'm people-pleasing. Got it. Then I'm on my Wheel of Fear. Because the Wheel of Fear, just like the Wheel of Freedom, has 4 components. So once I get triggered, I do some fear responses, again, procrastination, perfectionism, anxiety, overwhelm, etc., which then if I do those things, if I people-please, even though I try not to, or I eat too much, even though I tell myself I'm not going to, it only puts me in the third spoke of the Wheel of Fear, which is your core negative feeling. And this is how we mostly feel when life isn't working for us. We feel inadequate. We feel worthless. We feel like failures, right? So, right. And then when we feel that feeling, it gives us full permission to, eat that donut, drink that alcohol, oversleep, undersleep, exercise too much, exercise too little, eat the pint of ice cream, right? So It's those moments when we feel like we have no willpower because we've already slipped and slided on the wheel, and now we're past being able to stop it. We're overcome with that feeling, and that feeling feels so real and so true that we now do what I call self-destructive behaviors, which for me was my suicide attempts, my drinking and driving, my alcoholism, my jail time, etc., right? So, and then, of course, we do those, quote-unquote, bad behaviors, and we're like, I'm never going to do that again. I'm serious this time. I'm going to get better. And which only actually strengthens the Wheel of Fear because it goes, oh, good, she doesn't want to do that anymore, so she's going to do those fear responses even more. So it just continuously tricks you into getting tighter and tighter and tighter and living on the wheel more and more and more. And I do not believe that people live on the wheel of fear 100% of the time. I do believe that most people, some areas of their life, they're already fearless. Some people, their relationships is where they thrive, and they're fearless, and they're brave and courageous, and they say what they need to say. And, maybe building their career is where they falter. And other people,